People did not see me, nor do they know me, because my name is not recorded in any history. I am that same dust, that same voice, that same unsatisfied, immortal soul, which, crossing through ages, still dwells in the air of Kashi today. I was a soldier, but not. I fought a war for Dharma, for Shiva, for the protection of the cultural identity of the sacred land of Bharat. My identity? I am a Naga sannyasi who had raised the sword to protect the sanctum of Kashi Vishwanath, who had shed his blood in that history which you today know by the name Genvapi War. Most people perhaps do not even know the name of that war. Today, I have come before you because our sacrifice could not find a place in your history books. Many facts were hidden, many truths buried under the dust of history. Many thought perhaps I had gone away, but no, my soul is still here in the temple courtyard of Kashi, in a state of waiting. It had begun long ago, when this land, Kashi, was only a land of knowledge and penance, a place of meditation for the gods. Here, Lord Mahadev himself resided. Where his eternal energy had gathered, that very place was the sanctum of Kashi Vishwanath. But nothing remains the same forever. One day came the first storm of destruction, when in 1194 CE, the Turkish plunderer Kutbuddin Aybak, through his general Qazi Saad, for the first time demolished this temple. Not only the Shivling were destroyed, faith, devotion, and refuge. Janvapi, along with all of Kashi, was plundered, but the temple was built again. People learned that destruction does not mean defeat. God cannot be reduced to ashes. He is the soul. He is consciousness. This saga of repeated destruction and reconstruction, in truth, the temple of Kashi is a living symbol that no one can erase, Shiva's. But that light of hope in the temple's reconstruction could not last for long, because the time had come for the most shameful chapter of history. Then came Aurangzeb, the killer of his own brothers, a man whose sword knew only blood, whose eyes held nothing but hatred, hatred towards faith, towards differing beliefs, towards the gods. Under his hand, hundreds of temples were erased, but the most merciless blow came in the year 1669 CE, Kashi, where sages had meditated in deep, timeless penance for countless ages. Upon that sacred land marched the plundering Mughal army, and before them stood unarmed ascetics. There were pleas, there was resistance, but they broke the idols. They uprooted the shivling, they filled the sanctum with rubble, and upon that very rubble, Lohevitone built the Jan. Can you even imagine? Where once stood Lord Shiva himself, that very sacred ground was now covered with the dust from Mughal soldiers' boots. Where once holy mantras had echoed, there was now only silence, the wail of a soul. I was alive then, I saw it all, my blood boiled. But in that moment, we were not ready. We were waiting. And just then, like a ray of hope came Maharaj Jai Singh, the Rajput king, who carried within his heart an unshakable devotion to Shiva. In 1676, he rebuilt the temple, right by the Ganga, beside the ruins of the old. In the 18th century came yet another plunderer, Ahmad Shah Abdali. He swept through with a storm of looting, destruction, and fire. Kashi trembled once more. But this time, we did not remain silent. We, the Naga sannyasis, took to the streets. We wear the Rudraksha, we teach people to be calm, detached, free from desire. Yet we took up the sword. Our heads bore matted locks, but our hearts burned with fire. We are Brahmins, spreading knowledge is our dharma. But we do not hesitate to fight, for this war was for Shiva, for the truth. We remembered it was to protect the dharma, the culture, the heritage of Bharat, that our journey began under the guidance of Adi Guru Shankaracharya. To offer one's own last rites with one's own hands, that is but the renunciation of the body's petty attachment, to dedicate oneself wholly to the defense of the nation and the faith. And even now, that vow still burns within me. After this, the war that began was not merely for land. It was a war to reclaim the right of the soul, a vow to sacrifice life for the protection of Dharma. We were ascetics, but time had made us warriors. Austerity had given us endurance, and the blows had awakened bravery within us. If you had been in Kashi at that time, you would have seen swords being sharpened in every ashram, not mantra with the sound of conch shells, but war cries resounding through the air. No king supplied us provisions, no general made us soldiers. We ourselves were the army of Shiva. Our leader was faith, and our guide was the cry of the soul. We organized messages carried from ashram to ashram around Kashi, forgetting the distinctions of class, religion, caste. All monks and ascetics spoke in one voice, Shivoham. This land is ours, this temple is ours. And then came that dreadful time when once again the Mughal army advanced. They did not know that this time Kashi was not alone. This time, from every brick of Kashi, fire would burst forth. This time, those who would stand would not be mere monks. They would be Nagas. Naga, meaning naked, fearless, terrifying. Even in our nakedness, we stood unshaken, ashes upon our heads, tridents in our hands, and our eyes locked in direct contact with death. We blocked their path in the lanes of Kashi, on the ghats, in the temple courtyard, and the battle began, where there were no shields, only bodies awakened through penance and a vow of self-sacrifice. I was alive then. I was in the front line of that war. My hands were stained with blood, but it was no sin. It was a symbol of protecting Dharma. The blood I had shed mingled with the waters of the Ganga, and as if Mother Ganga herself roared, "Advance without fear, my son." We knew we would lose, but we also knew that in this very defeat would be sown the seed of victory. Every drop of our blood would become history, and it is that very history I am telling you today. Then came that day, the day when our penance was tested. The Mughal army had already entered the sanctum of Shiva. By then, the blood of thousands of Naga sannyasis and common people had already stained the soil of Kashi. But they did not know that inside the temple, guarding the door of Shiva, we were standing in the final resistance, in that narrow, cave-like chamber of the sanctum. There were only 12 of us, but in every heart burned a blazing flame. When the Mughal soldiers entered the sanctum, the first sound that echoed was, "Har Har Mahadev." My trident struck straight into the chest of a Mughal soldier, and from there began the final defense, until the very last drop of blood. Some were unarmed, some held a broken stick, but none stepped back. Encircling the shivling, we had formed a human ring into which no one would enter. And if anyone did, that body would never return alive. In one moment of that battle, a Mughal soldier plunged a sharp dagger into my chest. I fell to the ground, and even then I saw one of my companions with his blood-soaked body tearing at the enemy's neck. My eyes were slowly closing, but before that, what I saw was not the shadow of death. It was the calm, gentle form of Shiva, at whose feet I surrendered my blood-stained body. That was the moment of my death, in the sanctum of Kashi, in the presence of the shivling, amid the fire of penance and streams of blood. My soul was freed from the bondage of the body, but one ache remained. If only I could have resisted a few moments more, could have given the death penalty to a few more sinners. But death was not the end. My body was gone, yet my soul kept wandering among those ruins. I saw how the dome of a mosque was built upon the temple spire. I saw how that shivling before which we had stood and given our self-sacrifice was buried deep into the ground, and upon it was built the Janvapi Mosque. I saw how our history was attempted to be erased, how it was ordered that our sacrifice be forgotten. But can the soul die? Only the body perishes. Memory, penance, and history, no one can escape them. I saw how so many Hindus were not allowed to enter the temple, how they returned with tears in their eyes. I saw the face of that proud mother, standing firm as stone, whose son had been martyred in that war. She knew for what purpose her son's blood had been shed. I saw the sorrowful cries of Shiva's devotees, who knew that their supreme deity was today held captive. Then the age changed. The Mughal Empire was gone. The British arrived, but the temple of Kashi never returned. They wrote only this in the history books: Aurangzeb built a mosque, but no one wrote whisper whose place it had been before. No one wrote how much blood, how many layers of souls were buried beneath the foundation of that mosque. The country became free. I thought perhaps now there would be liberation, but I was shocked to see you were not even allowed to know this history. Even the history written by the victors was twisted into the tricks of politics. They wrote, "This is a symbol of communal harmony." They not only suppressed the truth of the Janvapi temple, but also erased the sagas of self-sacrifice of thousands of monks and common people like me. But I knew this silence would not last forever. Perhaps it would take time, perhaps centuries would pass, yet someone would one day ask, what lies beneath this mosque? Someone would one day gather the courage to say, this temple once belonged to Shiva. And finally, that time came, as if Lord Shiva himself had called, when centuries of dust had settled upon my memory, when no one was hearing the cry of my soul at that very moment. I saw a new generation awakening. There was fire in their eyes, questions in their minds. They wanted to know, what history lies buried beneath this mosque? Once again, the soil of Kashi stirred with public consciousness, and that very awakening gave birth to the Janvapi investigation. I saw, as the archaeologists searching, brought out that very pavilion, those very broken pillars, and the Hindu symbols carved upon the temple walls, symbols that had been hidden beneath the mosque for centuries. I saw they uncovered that very stone form of Mahadev before whom I had offered my life. Then I understood my self-sacrifice had not been in vain. But I do not want people to awaken only for retaliation. I want them to know, to understand, to feel this struggle is not just for one temple. This struggle is for the right to memory. This struggle is for the protection of existence. This struggle is to keep alive the legacy of consciousness. You who are hearing this tale today, you are not merely spectators or listeners. You are the heirs of that soul, of that immortal consciousness. Remember, this land, this shivling, are not just soil or stone. They are witnesses to an indomitable spiritual strength, such strength that through ages upon ages gives birth to revolution, gives birth to a spiritual war of independence. I am still here today in this Kashi, in this temple, in the cracks between these broken walls, waiting for the day when once again in the sanctum of the Janvapi temple, the bells will ring, the sound of conch shells will echo, and with sacred mantras in one voice you will all proclaim, Har Har Mahadev. On that day, my unsatisfied soul will find liberation, and with a contented heart, I will return to the refuge of my supreme deity. Friends, if this story touched your heart, do show your support by giving it a like. Don't forget to share your feelings in the comments. Who knows, your thoughts might inspire someone else too. And to discover more such unheard tales from history, glorious legends, and the fascinating chapters of ancient Indian culture, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Come, let us rediscover together our lost heritage, the forgotten stories of India.